Hey everybody, welcome to Flomaton Famous. Today we're going to be talking about the muscadines that I'm growing, the ones I like, the ones I don't like and will probably be getting rid of, and the ones that I recommend for different reasons. Okay, when we bought this place 7 years ago, one of the very first things we did is we built this grape trellis system. And two of the very first muscadines that I put on this trellis system was this Sweet Jenny and Ison's Black down at the other end. We actually made a trip out to Ison's nursery and picked these two up. I did a little bit of research looking at sugar content, growth habit, and overall, this is what I went with. Now, it happens to be that Sweet Jenny is a female, which means it needs a pollinator. So I picked up Ison's, which is self-fertile, which means it has male components in its flowers, and it will pollinate itself, and it'll also pollinate females. So for several years now, this thing's been growing, and I've been seeing my Isons putting on a lot of grapes, but my Sweet Jenny really hasn't been putting on anything. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about Sweet Jenny by itself. I did mention that it was a female variety. It is one of the highest sugar content muscadines out of all the varieties. Sweet Jenny is rated at 23% sugar content, and it is actually one of the largest of the muscadine varieties. It's supposed to be putting on grapes the size of about an inch, inch and a half. A minute ago when we were looking under here at what grapes was on this vine, I saw this one that looked like two of them had grown together, and I just wanted to save that for the camera because that's real neat looking. We're going to be enjoying that one in a few minutes. So looking in the description of this plant's supposed to put on about 40 to 60 pounds of grapes per vine. And honestly, every year I'm lucky to get a pound of grapes off of this vine. I thought I had a really bad pollination issue going on, so I let my Isons send one runner all the way down, and I expected to get better pollination, but it just hasn't done what I think it should be doing. So I don't think that I have the pollination issue. I don't know what's going on with this, but this is the one I'm probably going to be getting rid of. As good as this one is, that's a really good tasting grape. And I enjoy them when I get them, but I only get about a handful or so a year. So let's move on down and talk about its pollinator, Isons. All right, Isons has dominated this trellis. I've been keeping it trimmed up to about 10 feet this direction, and this is on a double wire trellis system, so I have two wires 4 feet apart. And so I have a leader running over there and a leader running over here. But since I've been wanting it to pollinate Jenny, I allow it to go and take over into Jenny's area over there. But this year, I allowed it to run down this way, and it has run 30 feet in that direction, and I have grapes all the way down that way and probably 15 feet down this way. And I have to say, this vine has loaded up. I have picked muscadines and picked muscadines and picked muscadines. And I don't know if you can see over here, I've really harvested a lot on this side, so I don't have as many left over, but they were just hanging. And I haven't harvested this side as much, but you can see there. Nice, good sized grape. Good flavor. Now, Isons is rated to have an inch and an eighth size berry on it. It is rated at 19% sugar, so less than the Sweet Jenny. but just for picking straight out of hand, you can't really see the difference in the flavor. So if I had to choose between the two, I would definitely pick Isons. So like I said earlier, I'm going to be getting rid of that Sweet Jenny just because it doesn't seem to put on as many grapes as I think it should. Let's head on over to the orchard. While the other two muscadines we just talked about were Ison varieties, now we've over at the brand new trellis system that we just put in out in the orchard. And I'm looking at this new variety that has just been released by the University of Georgia called Ruby Crisp. Ruby Crisp is actually lower in sugar. It's rated at a 17% sugar, but there's a couple of different things about Ruby Crisp, and I want to talk to you about this. Look at the size of that grape, that Muscadine, and opposed to the Isons and the Sweet Jenny. The difference in the size there. What makes Ruby Crisp a little bit different is not only the ruby red color and the lower sugar content. This one actually has an edible hull. When you saw me eat the muscadines earlier, you have to pop them in your mouth and then throw the hulls away. Even though the hulls are rated as edible, if you're going to eat a belly full of these, you don't want to eat a belly full of hulls along with it because it affects you on the next day. Ruby Crisp, being a little bit different, is you can't squeeze it's very hard to squeeze these into your mouth to get rid of the holes, even though I just did on that one. It's a lot of effort. Now, what's special about these, they're very thin skinned, so you can eat a bunch of these muscadines and eat the holes also, and it's not tough, it's not chewy, and see how I'm able to bite that muscadine berry, that grape, right, right in half. I can't really do that on these others. I try to bite it in half and it just busts the grape open, and I have to end up pulling the insides out. Whereas this one, very unique. It took me a little while to get used to this because after you bite into it, I want to suck the inside out and spit out the seeds. And so I had to concentrate a little bit harder to try to get the seeds out. It's a really good grape. I enjoy it walking around out in the orchard and just eating on some of these muscadines. This is one of the ones I always come over to just because I'm really surprised at how well I enjoy these grapes. Not saying that the others are bad, I enjoy those too. But it's just a little bit different, seeing how it's crisp instead of slimy gooey on the inside. I know slimy gooey doesn't sound, very appetizing, but essentially when you're eating a muscadine, that's what you're dealing with. But I'm really liking Ruby Crisp. All right, guys, let's talk about the muscadine that we have here. I paid through the nose for this one. This one's called Razmataz, and it's exclusively available at only one or two places, and they're not authorized to sell this one at a lot of the big popular nurseries. It's just one or two nurseries got the contract to sell it. What makes Razmataz so unique is, one, it's seedless. Two, it's everbearing. So once these things come into season and start ripening up its muscadines, it doesn't stop until the first frost hits. Now that is amazing. There's one drawback, and it's a big one. Actually, it's a small one. It's the size of the berry. A lot of people enjoy this muscadine. Even though it's seedless, it takes a lot of them to do anything with. Now looking at this, you can see that we have another cluster here getting ready to ripen up. So the clusters aren't really big. They're little handful clusters. whenever I'm out in the orchard, I can come by and I can pick half of a handful just on one of these and then pop them in my mouth, and I don't have to worry about spitting seeds out, which is really nice. Now, the flavor of these, it's unique. They're pretty good. They're okay. They're not anything to rave about. They don't hold a candle to the flavor of the old tried and true Muscadine varieties. They're just okay. And they're only rated at 16% sugar. And I think at their biggest, you're talking about a ½ inch size berry. But one of the things that I really do like about them is that, as you can see here in this branch, and I don't have my vines trained up the trellis yet, but I've got some, which you saw to the ripe, some that are soon going to be ripe, and these are still flowering, and then some of them are about to flower. So all different stages all summer long. All right, guys, I hope you found a little bit of this information enjoyable, informative. Hit the like button. Share the video if you think it was valuable and someone else would like to have this knowledge. All right, guys, remember, keep growing, keep building, and always keep adventuring. Together, we're Flemington Famous. We'll see you on the next one.